We're using Flet to build pure Python UI interfaces. We're using CSV data, and we're going to use Flet Charts, another pure Python, so no JavaScript, to plot it in a line chart. We are using Python because it is more fun. Using Flet, we can build pure Python UIs, no JavaScript, no HTML. We can build it for desktop, mobile, web. We can use Flet Chart, pandas, the Python for loops, enumerate, and list. We're using UV because it is better and more fun than pip. Let's start a brand new project with UV init. I'm going to specify the Python version as 3.13, even though 3.14 is out. It's a bit too new, and there might be some problems. And we'll create the name of it using this kebab case. I have a file called data.csv, which is exported from a spreadsheet. It is a simple set of days and the sales earnings. This is fake data. Okay, let's pop open main.py and let's start cooking with pandas, which is a way to get the CSV file into easy to use Python data structures. So we'll import it as PD. You could call it anything, but PD is a bit shorter than pandas, which is why we're calling it PD. And we'll set up a data frame. So this variable df is the initial data frame, and we'll read it in with pandas with pd.readcsv. And I'll just print it out here as a test. All right, in the lower terminal, the console at the bottom of the screen, we will first add pandas with UV. So we're going to use the UV add and the name of the package. In this case, it is pandas. And we'll use UV add. We're going to add the flat package. I'm going to put it in quotes and use the square brackets and all to give access to a bunch of other packages. Flet Charts is not included in Flet All, so we have to add it separately. And now we have Flet Charts, we have Flet, we have Pandas. I'm going to activate the virtual environment, which is automatically created with UV. Okay, if we run it with Python main.py, we will have the data frame printed out. It has the index of the data frame, the day of the month of January, and the amount sold in millions of this fake data. So it's an easy way to open up that file, and then it automatically will close it as well too. So it saves a bit of boilerplate code with standard compared to standard Python. We're going to set up a data frame for the day, and since we've already imported, we're going to convert the text or the string into a numeric data so that we can manipulate it. And if we can't extract the day, so that's the piece of text within our CSV file, we're going to raise an error instead of trying to coerce it. So we'll next go data frame, earnings millions, and we'll do the same thing in case we want to do more advanced calculations on the data. And pandas can convert it to a numeric for us quite easily and also keep track of the errors. Whether we want to coerce it or raising the error means that, hey, there's an error that's going to be shown. And using pandas like this is pretty nice because we can just then, let's say we just want to access the day, we can easily just access it by putting the name of the header in there. It's the same thing if we just want to access the revenue or the amount of products sold in millions. The The number column on the left is just the index of the data frame, and the one on the right is the thing that we are trying to extract. So it's pretty nice that it's easy to just grab that portion of the data that you want. We don't have to use the Python split. We don't have to use open with and pandas, although it is a little heavier. So you have to import the entire package into your program. It does make it a little bit bigger memory footprint. Is what we do want to use going forward. So it's bigger, meaning that it's not good if it's bigger, right? Um, but it's much easier to use. So we'll set up a empty list. We're going to create the line chart data points. So we have to plot it. So we need the data that we are going to plot. The first thing is that the way Flet chart works, there is a set of points. There's different ways to do this. I'm going to use a simple way. I'm first going to put up a empty list. So it's a Python list called points. And within the empty list, we will append a new point to plot. So it's a special type within Flet Charts, and it's called a line chart data point. And the data point will consist of the X and Y axis. We're going to use a simple for loop to generate each of the points. Once the point is generated, we will append it to the end of the list. The list is called points. The one maybe thing you're not familiar with is enumerate. Enumerate will return both the index that we are calling IDX and the value, which we're extracting from the data frame day. So the enumerate will populate both IDX and day as the variables. We'll next set up the value, which we'll get from the data frame earnings millions, which we created earlier. And in the index, it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So it's going to call up the same value for that specific day. And the connection here is that the index of both the day data frame and the value data frame are the same. To use the Flet charts, we first, of course, have to import it. We'll also import Flet, and we'll call Flet charts FC just because it's shorter than Flet charts. So we'll import Flet as FT because it is shorter. FT is shorter than Flet, makes it easier to type in for the programmer. So for us, we will create the point. This is within this loop here. And the point is of type line chart data point. And we will set this thing up with the day and the Y value. We'll add the tooltip in later. Now that we have the point, we can add it to the end or append it to the end of the points, which is a list. So this is a list of points. And the append is the standard Python method for the list. So we haven't added Flet in yet. We haven't added the chart to Flet. So let's start building up the infrastructure that we need for it to run Flet. And we're going to run the main method. So that ft.run will send the page, it's the ft page, Flet page over to main. And so now we can access the page, and the page has something called add as a method that we can add elements to the page. By default, there is a page, but the page is blank. We haven't added anything into the page. Before we can add the chart into the page, we first need to create the chart with Flet Charts. So our next step here is to create the chart. We're going to use the variable name chart for the chart, and it's a Flet Chart. So the FC is Flet Chart. Line Chart is the package within Flet Charts. And now we just have to add the data to Flet Charts to tell it what to plot. So there's the data series that we will be using. And this is of type line chart data. So Flet Charts has many different types of charts. The one that we're using today is line chart data, which has a property points, which we previously created our own list of points earlier. So let's just first test it out, make sure that Flet itself works, and then we will add it in to the Flet page. It's blank because we have not added the chart into our page. All right, so we need to add the chart onto the page, but I just realized that I have the page and the chart within the for loop. So I actually need to dedent it one up. Well, I'll select it. I'll press Shift and Tab so that it's in the same line or the same column as main. And we'll try to run it here. Then we're starting to get our chart. It already has some tooltips by default are working. So it looks good. I'm going to wrap it in a container, and then I'll add some padding to the container, and we can see how it looks. So instead of just directly adding the chart, I'll add the container in, and I'll make the chart the content of the container. And in this, I'll start adding a bit of padding. I'll just get the spacing for one side first to see how much space a 40 pixel looks on the screen, to try to get a feel for it. This padding 40. And on the left-hand side, you can see that roughly how much space that 40 pixels is. And above the chart, I think I can add another container, and I'll set the height to 40 so that there's this entire container over the top of it. And the tooltip is now more easily readable. At least it's not getting cut off yet. It was getting cut off a little bit on the right-hand side. So I'll add padding on the the left and right. Now none of the tooltips are getting cut off. In order to increase the size of the tooltip, we have to adjust the size of the tooltip on each point, but it's in a loop. So if we make the change once, it'll apply to all the points within the chart. So within the point itself, this line chart data point, there is a property for tooltip, and this tooltip is not a string immediately, it's a line chart data point tooltip. So the property of this data point for tooltip is line chart data point tooltip. And in there, we can apply a text style. So the property name is text underscore style. And in Flet, there is a text style class that we can now assign a size property to. So I'm using the 26 point font. and it's bigger, a little easier to read. This is the default blue color, and you can change it. I think I'm just going to leave it as blue, the default blue at this stage. I'll increase the weight using the weight property of text style and the constant ft.fontweight.bold, which is built into Flet to give it a bit heavier weight. You also have more granularity over the weight if you did want to adjust it more precisely. I'm just using the standard constant dot bold for the weight. And to set up additional contrast, I'm going to make the background color white so that the light blue does stand out a bit more. And now with this background, it's more easily read. To make the tooltip easier to read, I'm going to also change the content of that tooltip point. So there is another property called text, and I'm using a Python f string, which means that I can use a variable within the string, and it will be within these curly brackets. So it's going to first print out the value with a single floating point. The \n means new line. So there would be two lines in the tooltip. The second line is triggered by that \n, which is the new line control character. And the upper portion of the tooltip is being cut off a bit. So I have a container above the chart that's acting as a padding. The container is invisible. So it's 45 pixels from the top of the screen to the top of the chart, but it's not enough space. So I'll make this container 100 pixels, and the tooltip at this point is not getting cut off. They're padding within the container for the chart on the left and right. Now I'm going to add a piece of text for the title at the top of the page. I'll use the flet text element, which does require a string as the input. So I have to put this in quotes here. And this is fake data, so it's not actual sales data from a company, but the imaginary company is selling some heavy equipment, maybe some tractors. It's a big market here in the United States, and they're just getting started. So we'll have a text super small because there's no font specified, the size of the font. So there's a property on the text component for the size, which I'll set to 32, and the weight, which I'll make bold again. Weight is that keyword of the text component. And it looks good. It looks good. No problems with the tooltip either. Okay, congratulations. The chart is looking good, but I think we do want the left and bottom axes. So let's start working on those. Within the fc.line chart, there is a property for the bottom axis. And the bottom axis requires a component called fc chart axis from Flet Charts. Right? And it has many different properties, but I'm gonna set the label size to 40, which is not the font size, it's the spacing that we assign each of the labels. So if you make it bigger than 40, it'll have more spacing. It doesn't increase the size of the font, just the spacing between the labels. So each label is of size 40. Then we have a left axis, which is of type fc.chart axis again. And so this is from the left edge of the chart in. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger because the text is written horizontally, and I'll set it to 80. And we have, so the highest point here is 6, is automatically generated. We can specify the min and max values. So in this case, it would be the y-axis, right? So the chart on the left is the y-axis. And we can specify the min y, which would be 0. And because I have it as 0, it does push up the 1 a bit further away. And I'll also set the max y to 7. I think since the highest value is 5.9, you can just look at the data set. 7 will give it a little bit of spacing at the top there. We can set the line in the line chart, the width of the line in the line chart. Maybe make it a little bit wider. So it's just a stylistic point about whether you want it to be wider or very narrow. I think the default might be 2 pixels. If we set it to 5, it's a bit more bold, kind of pops out a bit more. Maybe it's easier to read for in our case. I don't think there's a way to just increase the size of the font of the label without creating new labels. So let's create a bunch of y-axis labels, and then we can change both what appears, which is right now is simply what's in the CSV file, or we can also increase the size of the font and the weight of the font if we want to. If we don't specify the labels, we'll take the default set, which is good, but I want more control of it. So I'm going to first create an empty list to hold the labels, and I'll create a simple for loop. Every time through the for loop, we will append a new label to the end of the list. One of the things that we want to be in the label is a value. Right now it's pulling it from the CSV file, but I'm going to set a value range of 0 through 7 with that range 8. and we're going to append the chart axis label. So our list will consist of a bunch of the chart axis labels with a value, and we're assigning the label to be a piece of text that has the value using an F string, a size, and a weight to it, which we're going to set to bold. Within the axis for the y-axis, we can apply the list of labels with the keyword label. We'll first set the font weight to bold. Check it. Now I'm going into the chart section next. We'll first check it for syntax errors, and everything still looks good. And now we'll go into the left axis within the line chart. And there is a property called labels, which accepts a list which we just created. And now we have it so that's a dollar sign, a number, an M for millions. Maybe at the bottom we'll end it with some type of text here to give a little bit more information on the chart, like a caption. I'll make a container to hold this caption, and it's a Flet component here that is a text. I'll say sales of heavy equipment, thinking like tractors, some type of industrial equipment where it's a high dollar item. You don't need to sell that many units of it to easily get into the millions of dollars of sales. Mining starting to get popular in the United States again, and so it's kind of taking off. This is fake data. I'm just making it up right now, but I have in mind that maybe they're trying to penetrate more into the industrial segment of the United States where there's tractors and heavy equipment. It looks pretty good. The chart is looking quite good. We could, of course, use different data sets or read it in for different years, different months, change the chart interactively using some of these nice Flet components, which are based on the Flutter widgets. Once it loads, you should have good performance, although it does take a while to load from the web. On desktop or mobile, it'll load faster. I'll just put a bit of padding on the left of the caption of the chart. So this is a quick introduction to another aspect of Flet Charts, which is the line chart. And perhaps you could use it in your new projects, and leave a comment if you do build something. We'd love to see it. Thanks for joining us. So just wanted to point out where the source code and additional information is. So there's a free course here. There's no credit card. You just simply enroll in it and you enter the course. This video is in chapter 13. So you expand it out, and there's a bunch of different lessons. The one that we are working on is this Flet line chart. So there's the video itself, the one that you just watched, in case you want to review it. You have it here. It's nicely organized. There's also a discussion tab for the video, and there's a download code. Just press this, you'll get the code.